Hello, Dimitri.
Hello, Meredith. How are you?
I am very well. Thank you for another conversation. There are so many things to talk about right now. What I would like for us to discuss today is in the United States right now is a big division between the two major political parties because there's a presidential election coming up in a few weeks, and it's really sucked everyone in and gotten everyone really caught in this left versus right. And so I wanted to talk a bit about that controlled opposition and the presidential election and things that you and I have been seeing in dreams, maybe get a deeper understanding or perspective of what's going on and why it's so dangerous. That's why I wanted to talk about this, because it's pulling so many people in.
Absolutely. I think the challenge is to shed light on it. The one of the things I think is playing a big role here is what we always talk about as a controlled opposition, and to put a bigger light on that, because the idea of the checkered board, which I think I made a video lately, a live of the Katy Perry video clip where, everything is done in terms of these white and black chessboard. The problem with elections, or with political elections in general, is that the chessboard kind of a thing, once you remain on that level, it sort of locks you down in what I call a first person perspective, where you're not able to self-reflect. And what that means is you're not able to see your own self. You see everything in terms of the other. So to boil this down to a very tangible example is what I recently posted on Facebook, where I said, people would go like, okay, so how do I get out of the relationship with the narcissist? And then, how do I get away from the narcissist? And it's basically what happens when you're on that checkered board or that controlled opposition interaction with someone, is you want to get rid of what you are basically fueling in the other, which is you are stuck in a sort of a empath, overly victim role, where you sort of, you feel like, I will change this person if I trust more in them, or if I please them more, while my very behavior is what is fueling the very narcissism in the other that I want to change in the other. So that just gives like a little example how once you're on that chessboard grid, it's very difficult to truly see your own role, in basically creating what you are fighting out there. So what I say often is, we are within the controlled opposition, we are basically pushing each other into full extreme opposites of ourselves. And then we can never really see our role, but we're always seeing the other role. It's like, no, you are a narcissist, you are evil, and I am not seeing, that I am in the exact full opposite, which is equally, wrong.
Equally off balance. And that's the thing that we have to look at. Why not focused on them, what they are doing, but what am I doing? Why am I in this situation?
Right.
Why am I locked into this interaction, this entanglement? And I have to disentangle from that, not change them. I have to change me.
You see, and that is now one of the major features of the controlled opposition problem, which is visualized as this chessboard. And that is that once I'm sucked onto it, it becomes very difficult to self-reflect. Meaning, you would see this in political situations. For instance, the moment any issue, enters the political arena, you will get that it dies, because one side, will be blind to their role within it, and they will only see the other, as being the problem. So if that issue comes anywhere near my camp, I become fully blind to it. Then so for instance, with the child trafficking and issue, which has become maybe one of the major issues in the coming elections, you get that, we can only see it in the other. People would go like, yeah, but no, they would go like, yeah, but isn't that like, no, the thing is, this is how, this is the gravity and the seriousness of it. And that is that it blinds one side to their role within the issue.
Yes, because it's much easier to look at the bad that someone else is doing, or the wrong, or the sin, or whatever you call it. It's much easier to see it in them. And then it becomes like tunnel vision, like just stuck on that. And it blinds from everything. And then we don't want to, because we already have the bad guy out there. So there's no reason to look inward. But it, like you said, it just keeps us just locked in on that checkerboard and locked into these extremes. And the further apart the poles are, the more opposition inside, and the harder it is to get them back together, especially when we're locked, our vision is locked outward and not reflecting inward. But this is fueled and wanting to keep people in this state. And this is the problem and the danger, because when you're in that state, you don't see that you're in that state, and you don't see the danger of always looking outward and not looking inward.
You see, and that is like, one of the, so people would not imagine, that the very checkered board grid is the lockdown. It is the lockdown in the sense that we keep looking out, outward, not seeing how we are creating what it is we're trying to fight or change out there. And also it keeps us in a what I call an outside in direction of of awareness, meaning the outside keeps directing me via, because I am fully reactive towards the outside, meaning because the only way out really, of the bubble, whatever your bubble is, but is to go what I call inside out, because it means to stop reacting to something, which is to stop fueling it, So this is important. A very sophisticated mind control construct, if you wish, this chessboard or checkered board. This is why it appears in all of these videos. It's the thing, because, so once you're in it, you don't even realize what the nature of it is, because, it's somewhat even, referred to this as the matrix or whatever. But the point is that it keeps your consciousness in a state of a controlled opposition, meaning that I keep reacting to that, to that opposite outside of myself, which means I keep fueling it while, I think I need to change it. So, I think I need to change reality, out there, while basically I am creating it together with the thing I'm fighting.
Yes. And I just want to mention this before we go any further. When you said about, I need to stop reacting, and we do by being self-reflective, but there is another way to not react to the outside in an upside down way, which is being fully out of body. So we're not locked in on that checkerboard because we're not even there. And we can be fooled into thinking that we're going beyond the opposites, but it's really just going out of body. And so we need to make sure when we're not reacting, that it's not that upside down way of not reacting and the right side up self-reflective way of not reacting, but making a conscious choice and responding and containing my own shadow and my own feelings and seeing my part in this interaction.
No, that is extremely important because, thank you for bringing that up, because that's exactly the point. Because once you say, you know what, you need to stop reacting, most people, especially nowadays, you would hear any amount of sayings or techniques or whatever that would go like, oh, let go of it, or, don't give a damn, of what, they're all ways of going basically from one extreme to the next. And the only way out off of the checkered board, which is a mind control template, is to say, I'm not going to go too much into attachment on something, but neither fully disattach, but to find what we call the edge, which would be to step back and not let fully go, step back, but don't run away, and then reorient the awareness towards the inner third person, which would be where we can self-reflect and get back close to ourselves, and ask ourselves, okay, so what are we doing, and how am I fueling, whatever I am trying to
being
change
out there, yes, trying to stop or fight or treat it there. But also when you say to stop reacting, it also doesn't mean that I don't feel anything, because that can also be a misinterpretation or misunderstanding of what not reacting is. Not a knee-jerk unconscious response that you say this and I say that back and we're locked into this fight. But it doesn't mean that I don't feel anything. It just means that I feel whatever gets triggered by whatever was said, and I own and contain my own feelings as my own.
No, exactly, because if you work with someone and that person, you work with them you talk to them one time and they're sober and they're not using any, psychiatric drugs, let's say anxiety, and then you work with the next time you meet them, they're using these anxiety drugs. You will, for instance, see the difference, what you just mentioned. You will see someone going from, extreme high levels of anxiety to not feeling no anxiety. What you see is someone who basically is not there. They're not feeling the anxiety, but they're neither feeling anything. I call that stuff the psychological chemotherapy. It kills the good and the bad cells, and it creates an empty vessel, meaning, there's no feeling left. And there's no way to find, to reach, to heal, and to contain enough in order to, to go out of the bubble the right way if you don't feel. This is very important for people to realize the difference, on the one hand, we are feeling, but we're not allowing, the feelings to control us fully, but we're containing the opposites.
Also, oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. It's okay.
But also not blaming the other for what I'm feeling. I'm feeling this because it's already inside of me. The other person triggers it, but it's mine.
Absolutely. So you see, so that's the whole thing with the right side up processing.
Not reacting. Yes.
Exactly. Where we say, it's not like not reacting there is not feeling. It's owning, what is triggered within, acknowledging it, not letting go of the opposite of it, and the processing becomes when the two sides merge, collide in us, and then you get we call it a combustion, or you get a change of the states, from the bipolarity of, the extreme low and extreme high to another form of energy, but not by excluding either side. And, and the upside down, going out of body would be more like, this oxymoronic state, where you are sort of feeling both sides, but an extreme polarity of themselves, due to which it becomes impossible to sort of, contain them. And that's like the upside down, going out of body or combustion. And that's basically also, what we have discussed in a prior conversation. That would be like the upside down rapture, if you wish. This is the way people are going out of body and, going deep down into the black hole. And right, there's a big confusion regarding, what is not reacting. It's completely misunderstood as being, let go fully, or, don't, zone out, that often comes as the reaction from being too attached to something,
Yes.
It's not that stepping back, but not letting go fully and finding that center, that edge where the two can touch, and so where that fire and the water can touch and create the vapor, that vapor is the state where we go out of the bubble or off the magnetic grid. And, Meredith, it's the more we do this work, the more we realize that we need to guard that state, of vapor with our lives, because whenever we're sucked down onto these magnetic, grid dramas, you lose yourself. It's a form of self-loss, because it's impossible on the magnetic grid to remain self-reflective. It's basically being sucked into a first person, extremely too close state towards the outside,
Yes. And so that's the big difference is, and how, if someone wants to know, well, how do I know what state I'm in? It's where your attention is. If my attention is all on the other, whether the other is a political party, whether the other is a person in a relationship or at work or family member, if my attention is all on them and what they are doing wrong and what they need to change, that's focused too much outward.
And that is it, you see, and that is it, because it becomes impossible for you to see yourself, if you're only looking outside. So politically, it's a very powerful tool to keep a whole party completely oblivious of its own issues.
Yes.
And only focus on the other one, and only focus, and it's basically, you find this stuff in all religions. It's a cult, it's the cult template, because, I once asked someone, okay, so what's the most important thing, your organization does? And it was regarding, a religious organization, and they say, the most important thing for us is to go from house to house and preach to others, and I was like, yeah, but so how important is it to work on yourself? How much importance does that have, within the organization? And it was, we talk about that and all of that, but the main thing is to go out there, and preach to others and convert others. So this is the template where the other, it's basically, it's the essential template that the whole system, lives on, because in even in governance models, you don't manage yourself first and then manage the other. We manage the other.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the system has become so corrupt, because it's a non-self-reflective system.
It's a vampire system.
Yes, and people will this stuff is very serious. It's a system that, as long as we remain on that controlled opposition template, it becomes impossible to look at yourself. And the only way out is via self-reflection. So this is why I believe that a lot of what has been leaked out in terms of the child trafficking, and the pedophilia at the highest levels has been done deliberately. It has been done deliberately because it will keep people fighting the problem outside. It will keep people, for instance, going after some group outside, which will make it extremely difficult to work on themselves. And what have we seen in most of these protests globally is that these protests, they're filled with abusers themselves, because these are people that are going out to fight the pedophiles out there, unaware that they very often they themselves are either yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's the perfect cover, because if you're out there, quote, fighting the pedophiles and fighting for victims of sex trafficking, it really is a perfect cover, because someone who's doing that, seemingly someone who's sexually abusing children, seemingly wouldn't be out there fighting them, but they are, as you say, because even when you were talking about the church, there's so much sexual abuse in all the churches, especially the Catholic Church, and even different charities that are set up for victims, or different organizations. Those are a great hiding place for abusers themselves. And then even the victims who seemingly get out of sex trafficking, they're still controlled, and so they're still playing a role and reading a script, even though they may appear to be free. Their mind isn't free, because they haven't fully deprogrammed from that. So they use them to sell a script and a story that they want.
No, but you see, and this is why it's so so powerful, because a lot of these, let's say either victim or perpetrator who is still stuck, they will. This is how complex it is. You will have this, let's say, this abuser go into such a protest march, and not even themselves knowing it, that that they are hunting down the pedophile out there, while they are one themselves. So it's not even, this is how powerful this is. It's most of this is happening unconsciously. So meaning they themselves are not even aware, that they're looking for themselves. I was approached recently to consult on a movie that is being made on pedophilia, but the gist of it was this, and that is that so the very someone on the very team of the homicide team of the police force that was hunting down this serial killer pedophile was themselves a pedophile. And the thing is that, so the same way the victims suffer from multiple identity, so do the perpetrators, meaning that they also have shielded themselves off from seeing it in themselves. Yeah, so they're going to look for it out there. You know, they're going to you know, and I just saw a poster. You know, I want to mention this, and we put it up on the video because it's a poster of Trump, and it says this. It says, in the invisible war for the future of our republic, the tables are now turned. And now it comes, the hunters become the hunted. And and you know what? It's amazing because in that script, the idea of the hunter becoming the hunted, what it means is that you're hunting down outside what you are. You know, so now you have the QAnon, it's called www.qanon.pub, hashtag save the children, you know? And so you're hunting down what would then be now, you know, those that were the hunters. See, that's what it means with the hunters become the hunted. But then you yourself are hunting down what you also are, you see?
But it's also becoming the hunted, then playing the role of the victim too.
Exactly.
And then, you know, attaching to that of being a victim. And, you know, Trump does do this where he and people around him claim that the media is attacking him and other people are attacking him and he's being attacked for these things. But he does a lot of attacking also, but he doesn't see that.
You see, the thing is that once you're on the chessboard, it's impossible to see yourself. So another part of the poster reads, below the depths of the DC swamp, the hunt is on. You see, so what you have two groups. You know, one is hunting the other down for being, you know, involved in the child trafficking and all of that. But the hunter is also involved because it's the chessboard. It becomes almost important. People would go like, you know, it's unbelievable, you know, that this would be done, you know, consciously, because it's not being done consciously. You know, listen, I've seen in these protests abusers literally being the strongest in these protests to so-called hunt down the abusers out there, you know.
Well, and, you know it.
Sorry,
but I was going to say, you know, at the core, their own shadow wants them to be caught. Their shadow and their core self wants the truth exposed.
Absolutely, you know, but this is why, like in the movie Silence of the Lambs, you know, she's hunting down this serial killer, but she's basically, you know, looking for her own past. You know, she's looking for her own abuse. Yeah.
Because even, you know, you said the abusers and the perpetrators are out there in these protests, you know, looking for the bad guy out there, but the victims too. Like, and again, if we are being more self-reflective, if our focus is out there on child sex trafficking and abusers and everything's out there, if we can turn it inward and reflect, why am I looking at this? Why am I hunting out there? maybe it has something to do with me or my past or my experience in some way. And that it, just like for the abusers to hide behind the bad guy out there, the victims too, and like you said, unconsciously, not knowing consciously they were victims of sex trafficking or sex abuse. But if your focus is out there and you're so focused on it out there, that has to tell you something about yourself.
No, exactly. And also it's not the way out, because it's the way to fuel. This is how intricate this is, because the more you fight it out there, the stronger you make it. That's the tragedy of this. And also, as you say, the victims going out there and protesting and hunting down, while they themselves haven't really, gotten out. What that does is it becomes fully outside, and also they are doing this within a still existing Stockholm syndrome, that they haven't really solved. So what that does is they will look for some, what I call, a Stockholm Messiah. It means, because what we've seen is that if you've gotten a lot of if you've retrieved a lot of memory, of the trafficking and of the abuse, but you haven't done the necessary shadow work to fully get out, you will either remain, or you will go back in a Stockholm state where you will look for another abuser as a savior. And again, people do not know how powerful this is. This is technology, meaning once you're on that chessboard, you cannot make choices, from the inside out. You will react, and in that reacting, they will control you. Equally, once you're in this Stockholm state, you will look for a fake savior. It's almost like programmed into the whole thing. So obviously then, they will then reorient themselves towards another false messiah, and people think, and what has to be said regarding the false messiah, Meredith, is that we need to, this is another crucial aspect, and that is, until you haven't really closed what we call the back door, and that does not happen only by recalling repressed memories of abuse. Because I was looking at this Netflix movie yesterday. It's called Wretched or something, and this woman then, this man in a psychiatric ward, the psychiatrist hypnotizes the woman who is suffering from multiple identity disorder to get out these repressed memories. Mind you, with hypnosis. Mm-hmm. And, we know that then you haven't really, retrieved memory, because it's been done in a state of hypnosis. You're still asleep. And a lot of these MK Ultra victims that have been coming forward as victims of trafficking, and who have now sort of, come forward and, seen in Trump this savior. Most of them have retrieved their memories via hypnosis, So what happens then is, you think you're out, you know everything that's happened. You haven't really gotten it out, in a conscious way. The back door is still open. You're still in Stockholm. You're still looking for some false savior outside. Mm-hmm. And what it means is that via the back door, you can still be fed or inceptioned with false dreams. Mm-hmm. So the internet, is currently flooded with dreams, of Trump being some savior. And these dreams are being had by people who are still, in this lower grid.
And that's what I was saying before about the victims not fully being out. Then they use them to promote this script, and there are many of them. And like you said, they're looking for a savior out there, and Trump is definitely being sold as that and promoted as that. And I think especially in the new age and light worker communities, which would be, as you say, very, very much either not having gone deep enough or gotten memories at all, or certainly not going deep enough to fully deprogram. And I've also seen not dreams, but people having like psychic visions of things about Trump in that regard also. So those can definitely be inceptioned and hijacked to tell a particular story.
The whole false savior kind of thing, it is part and parcel of the Stockholm syndrome, It's part and parcel of the Stockholm syndrome where you will, you look for somebody outside, This is why the Disney princesses, they're all looking, for this savior figure on a white horse and all of that.
Yes.
And, so it makes a lot of sense, that we need to keep in mind that the more someone is spiraling down onto the chessboard and even below that the whole thing goes in reverse, the whole psychology goes in reverse, meaning I will look for the abuser for a savior. People people will lie, what, come on, that's people. No, it is really powerful. It is really powerful that you will see the abusers as saviors, and you will see those that genuinely want to help you as the enemy. Everything goes in reverse. And, those of us who have some experience working with this, we know how powerful this is. This is, when we talk about the back door, this means they break into your mind. They have the ability to break into your mind. As we've seen, all of the movies are showing, what is really happening, and the movie Inception, in a very powerful way, showed, how they break into someone's mind, so your mind is like a private space. The abuse, it creates this multiple identity structure, but foremostly, it creates a back door. We've created these computers, right? But we've created them in our own image. So the same way a computer, via back doors can be hacked. This is what happens. So then, and we've seen this, when somebody gets out, sort of closes up that back door, and then, they sort of go off, then, they're able to break back into their minds. So we're talking about the mind as being the ultimate spot, that has been conquered, taken over. It's a mental, in Holland right now, regarding the pandemic, the first wave, they were talking about managing the behavior of the virus, meaning the way the virus would behave, They literally, were speaking about, that was their management model. Obviously, that's ridiculous, so it didn't work. And now we have the second wave, and now they're talking about managing behavior, literally. That's what the Dutch government is basically talking about.
Behavior of people?
Yes. So now they're saying the only way, to stop the spreading is by managing the behavior of people. They're literally saying this. And so the point is, everything has now converged towards even openly and blatantly so, that people want to manage people's heads. People want to manage people's heads, and it's all about mind control. And it's become now openly like this. People are literally, I mean, the Dutch government is literally admitting that they are trying to manage people's and influence people's behavior, regarding the virus and all of that, which is kind of frightening. You shouldn't be saying you want to control people's behavior. That in and of itself is suspect.
It is, but that's essentially what's happening here in the United States, where with all the studies and the information and information overload and all these things coming out about the virus, what they're doing is trying to manipulate and control people, but not calling it that. It's really the same thing. But I saw an article today, and it was talking about how the virus now mutated so much that social distancing and wearing masks aren't effective to prevent it or whatever. So again, it will be more lockdown, or more severe restrictions will be what are proposed to make people feel safe or whatever. So it is controlling and manipulating people, but not calling it that, saying as if it's for their own good or it's their own choice, but it is a form of manipulating them into that.
Yeah, and that is exactly the way they roll it out, like Elon Musk would say, this chip, this whatever link, we're going to help.
Neuralink.
Yeah, we're going to help people walk and blind people see. They roll it out, so-called, it's for the good and all of that. And then it's out, the genie is out of the bottle, and then, they take it from there. And the thing is that, so getting back to, right. So the whole thing is to control your mind. The hunter is becoming the hunted, which is a little bit, the idea of, Trump and his people, locking up and finding these pedophiles is ridiculous, because what we know now is that, for instance, it makes no sense whatsoever to go out and try to get all of the Vatican pedophiles, arrested. It's just totally ridiculous, because you're not going to get the system to lock itself up, It's a loss of time. Beyond that, it's a way to distract you from your focus, because there's no justice system on this planet that will lock itself up, because it's a very justice system, that protects this. What is important, people to realize, that how to truly, get off this magnetic board, or get out of the bubbles that they're in order to find the right track, the right timeline, which is not getting lost on the, this one that has gone fully upside down already, and it's about going into reflection, looking at ourselves. The living water, the true wisdom of God is self-consciousness. By becoming more reflective, we go deeper into our own self, and that's where we find another timeline, and it's not outside,
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say about it's not outside. That's the whole thing of MK programming, is that the trauma is used to fragment and split the mind, where the person is fully emptied out, and everything has to be gotten from the outside, their identity, their sense of self. And so if they haven't fully deprogrammed, then of course they need someone or something on the outside, and will go back to abusers or a false savior or someone, because it's like they've set it up. It's almost like a fail-safe kind of mechanism where even if they start to get out, if they haven't fully, they'll go right back because their focus is externalized, because they've been so programmed in their whole lives to seek and find everything on the outside, and intentionally emptied out on the inside and filled with programs and filled with other things, that it's very easy to slip back into that. So it has to be very, a lot of self-awareness to see that that's what's happening.
That's it, right. It's exactly that. The search for something outside to save them, projecting the self outward, looking for a savior or a partner, something out there, that we feel will save us, which is like, the essence of that external focus. And this is why we go back to the saying that the kingdom is within. The kingdom is within, and the self with the capital S is this inner savior. It's only via connecting to that we find that inner kingdom. And also the shadow translates to, carrying around these false illusions, which could be seen as, luggage. I saw a dream today in which a group, which I think is, is this effort, was moving out of a desert, moving out of the desert. The desert is where, there is no more yin and yang, there's no more nature, but they were moving out of it, going back. And was being said that, the time is short. We need to move because, it is here, the big shift. And the people who were like guiding others to get up, to get to the right side, they were literally telling them to leave all of what is unnecessary behind, like clothes or whatever. People were just carrying all kinds of stuff along with them. People were literally screaming at them and saying, no, you need to leave it all behind, and you need to leave all of your illusions behind, which are the projections and which is the shadow that we don't want to deal with within. And so all of that unnecessary stuff, all of that luggage, is what needs to be left behind in terms of not believing in it in terms of projections, and remaining stuck in those bubbles. So, so it's very important for people to know that, the kingdom is within, and you need to leave all of that stuff now. Stop living in these projections and see them for what they are. Yeah.
And you and I both have been seeing in dreams that the raptures are happening, and that people need, like the dream you just said, they need to be aware that this is happening. This is really happening. We are in these times that are end times, but not in the sense of the earth ending, but it's for those of us who achieve to turn our focus inward and find that kingdom within. The false world is ending, but the raptures are happening, and the harvest, it's harvest time.
So you have the wave level of reality. Maybe we can end with this, but you have the wave level of reality, and you have the particle level. The quantum is the wave, and the particle is, is this time and space grid we're in, at the macro level. But what is happening is that if you look at the movies, all of the movies are sort of situating themselves back into the wave state. There's a recent movie called Tenet, in which they were able to reverse time. That comes exactly out of the quantum world. They are able to reverse time at the quantum level of subatomic reality. So what we're witnessing is that both sides are sort of re-entering are entering the wave state of reality, which is the quantum level, you know. So if you wish, the veil that so many have so often spoken of, the veil is between the particle and the wave, right? And the self with a capital S is the wave state of self, which inhabits a quantum or wave state reality. So what is happening is that we are moving out of the particle state, which is 3D. 3D is disintegrating. Many people are dreaming with the disintegration of that. Like, you know, like what we saw the other day, this hotel crumbling down and all of that. So 3D is disintegrating, and the side that has not worked and processed the shadow sort of goes to like a quantum physicality in the virtual. And those that I just spoke about, you know, leaving the desert and going to the true quantum, you know, they're going back to the wave state of reality, because the self is the wave state of the self. So there is a rapture happening. There is, these two timelines are being raptured out of 3D, you know, into these two wave state realities. And we need to know this because we are witnessing an enormous amount of dreams with this. You know, it's become, when everybody, this is important, when everybody is dreaming with the same dream, you see, it means that we are entering a shared dream zone. And that is the way, that is what they call singularity, or what we call the wave level of reality. And that means that the timeline that is dreaming with the same dreams, you know, of people dreaming, you know, that they are sort of being raptured to another reality, it means that that reality will become the default or the real reality for them. This is what's happening. This is why there are many, many dreams of people disappearing. And what it means is that they disappear to each other's timelines. And it's real, and you can see it in the movies. The movies are already going deep into the wave state, the whole superhero thing.
Well, what you said about people disappearing in the upside down wave, that, you know, before we talked about individual self-loss, well, this is even beyond that, because if there's no individual self with a capital S, when mixed in with the collective in that wave state, they're not strong enough to stand up in that, and so it just becomes like a mush, you know, like jello or goo, really. And in the right side up wave state, the individual self with capital S can withstand that, being in the shared dream, being in the collective state, but still remaining in a true individual.
That's the whole thing, you know. And so this is why this you know, this timeline that goes upside down, you know, becomes fully virtual. It's basically the end, you know, the end of the being. The black hole means, you know, there's no more inherent essential being in the person. You know, people, you know, look, people think the black hole is out there in space. No, the black hole is in every one of us, and it's the feeling when we've lost all meaning to our lives. You know, that's the bottomless empty pit, which people try to fill up with all kinds of external stuff. Mm-hmm. It just means that the self with the capital S has died. You know, that's the star, has died. And what stays over is a black hole. And there's no amount of filling that up from the outside that will fill it. It just keeps it getting more and more empty. Mm-hmm. And we have investigated the black hole from the psychological side. And it's a feeling of complete emptiness. It's a feeling, you know, it's beyond feeling. Mm-hmm. It's literally beyond feeling, and it's literally, what you just said, it's literally the full and total self loss. It's the end of the self. And this is, with the sayings in the Bible that man, cannot live by bread alone, but by the words uttered, from the mouth of God. What they're saying is that if the being loses connection with those words, which are the true selves or the true self, you get a zombie, and then that is what is uploaded to this upside down wave grid, and it's basically the end, of the being. And this is how serious this is, and it's upon us. We're seeing it happening before our very eyes.
And that too, the zombie theme has been in so many movies and TV shows, and even the virtual world. That's in numerous. I think there's an Amazon series called Upload that it's supposed to be, I guess, a comedy of this guy that gets uploaded to a virtual reality. But there are lots and lots of depictions of this, and not showing what really is happening. I mean, it's not a comedy.
No, and maybe for another conversation, but the whole idea of what is the meaning of the virtual reality. The virtual reality means a reality that has no more reality to it. I mean, that's the whole idea of virtual. And it means that the God of that reality is not real. This is why what we would call darkness, the embodiment of darkness, is the absence of the light. So it's a reality based on nothing real anymore. Mm-hmm. It's totally virtual. That's the point. The essence of the self with the capital S is that is the core, the real core of things. So the right timeline is returning to the wave state, which we would call the true ultimate essential nature of things, while 3D would be the particle state, which physicists have always known. We're somehow in a 3D state experiencing our own projections, which is like a simulation. So we've never really been in reality in this realm, we've had glimpses. For instance, when we're in the now, the now is an example of what ultimate, what the wave is, which is the true real reality, living reality. But to a very large extent, people live in their own projections and in their own bubbles, which is simulations. And from those bubbles, they're being uploaded to a deeper virtual reality. Like there's this movie called Dreams or something on internet. I even think there's also Minecraft, in which within a game, they're able to create another reality, a virtual reality. That's like saying within that projection bubble or simulation, you can create another bubble,
Yes.
And right. So that virtual reality basically means, it's a pity that, people like Elon Musk get, so much airtime because they don't know the meaning of this stuff, They don't know it. The whole idea of the virtual, it means that there is no more reality. There's no more essence, and that is the nature of what people would call, the devil, which is the absence of all self. That's what alien means. Alien means something
alienated.
Exactly, something outside of the human core story. People don't know the meaning of this stuff.
Yeah.
And they just verbalize, and they don't even know, you need to listen to the meaning of the things. Mm-hmm. And, so right.
So maybe just to kind of wrap up, so the two wave states are, people are being attracted or raptured to them, and the right side up and the real quantum wave state, in that state we're not lost in projections, and so it opens up that's the miracle. It opens up all possibilities because we're not locked into our projection or some idea or conditional outcome where we're open, and that's the space that miracles can and do happen.
Wonderful, exactly. And and it is the miracle, the true miracle world. What Disney has been trying to mimic, but it is the true wonderful world. World filled of wonder, and that's what the whole wave quantum world. People are all obsessed with it because it's all of the limiting laws of physics break down, and you get infinite possibilities. But yes, that is where we are returning to, but we need to drop all of the fake stuff, and the bubbles, and we need to see. If you ask me, and maybe we can end with this,
Okay.
The whole Trump thing is actually, even though what we said, how hard it is to be on the chessboard and to see this stuff, but it is a wonderful opportunity to see that the whole thing is false. The whole thing is false because both sides have been caught up in this child trafficking stuff. And if anything, as you said, I think earlier, they are in a way, trying to expose themselves to themselves.
But unconsciously and unknowingly. But
right.
That's what this extreme fight to find the bad guy. It really is a drive coming from inside the self, but totally, completely not aware of that at all.
Exactly. They're trying to see, that as the script I mentioned, that the serial killer is trying to see himself, that he is the serial killer, but he's so walled off, to himself, that he has to look for it outside. But
yeah, so maybe as a last note to just remind people to look at what you're looking at and where you're looking and why. Why are you looking at this?
Yes. And look at what you are looking at, and look at the looking, but remain close to yourself, remain self-reflective, then you will see your own shadow, and that is the way out, the true way out. The true way out is not to try to hunt down the hunters.
Yeah, it's not a fight, and it's certainly not outward, because outward leads to outward. It leads to more alienation and
exactly
leaving the body, leaving the earth. So that can't, the focus being outward cannot be the right way.
So thank you so much, Meredith.
Yes. Thank you.